So with all of that being said, was the incident involving Relay 314 really all that unreasonable? From the Turians' perspective, the galaxy could very well have been on the brink of another galactic disaster where the Alliance left to continue activating relays. But as far as the Alliance were concerned, they were merely expanding their knowledge and exploring the frontiers of their civilization. They had literally no way of knowing there was even a law to be broken. But therein lies the issue. The Systems Alliance for a few years now had irresponsibly allowed their brawn to outgrow their brains, and it's remarkable that they hadn't run into trouble sooner. Realistically, the Systems Alliance should have been activating relays with similar levels of caution, especially considering that at the time, the only intel we had on what dangers to expect was that somehow the civilization that appeared to precede our own had all but been eradicated. It doesn't immediately mean a great threat was out there. The Protheans could have wiped themselves out for all we knew. There we go again with that saying, for all we knew. The fact that we as a species were still in our infancy with a clear understanding that we had barely scratched the surface of what there was to know should have had us taking a more precautionary approach. But it didn't. Like a child playing with fire, we charged into the darkness of night with reckless abandon, blissfully unconcerned with what might be hiding in the shadows. It could be argued, however, that the Turians, on the other hand, would have known better and should have taken a more measured assessment. But in all honesty, I think the Alliance absolutely deserved to be scolded without warning when they were first encountered. The Turians knew what the dangers were, and doing everything within their power to put a stop to Relay 314 from being activated as swiftly as possible was the correct course of action. It was drastic and resulted in casualties, but the risks far outweighed what the Council likely considered acceptable losses. I think that most who argue against this would likely suggest that attempting to make contact would have been more prudent. It would have been more peaceful, absolutely. But again, considering the threat that unchecked relay activation posed, could Citadel forces really afford to spend significant reaction time waiting for a response? I would imagine that the majority of policing actions taken against unauthorized relay activations were largely met with force anyway, given that most with the capacity to break this law were likely aware of what they were doing: mercenaries, belligerent non-council species such as the Batarians, and even members of the Terminus systems. Any one of these factions, when met with a Turian task force whilst being up to no good, would likely fight or just simply run away. With the Systems Alliance, I think they merely found themselves being an unfortunate statistic in this situation, a first contact species also breaking a law they were unaware of. So no, I don't think opening a dialogue right away would have changed much. After all, if the Alliance were just a child in this situation, how often do children like being told what not to do? The Turians understandably but regrettably acted with a doctrine of fire first and talk later. Only, the talk later part never occurred.